Yes, of course. I don't know why anybody would make a beer glass that doesn't hold 12 ounces, however. Kind of pisses me off. Ouch. Ow, ow.
All right, welcome, Craig.
Thank you.
This is your second episode. I've only had a couple of guests.
Ouch.
That have yes, I'm old.
Preaching to the choir, buddy.
I've had only so my daughter and Alex and my coworker Heather have been on more than one episode, but I think you're only the fourth person that's actually been. That must mean you were good on the first episode because we're doing a repeat.
Nah, maybe it was just because it's so bad.
All right, get it closer to your mouth because whenever you insult me, I want to make sure we get that on mic. So a little bit closer, a little bit closer.
Yeah,
there you go.
good.
That's
all right.
Yeah, I can see the indicator lights. Let's get this out of the way. Kenny Chesney rules. No Shoe Nation is the best. Tom Brady and the Patriots. Yes. Yeah, we have. You remember from the last one, we have to do that every time. It is in December, so Craig has a Belgian that we're sharing. Is it? I forgot the fat.
New Belgium.
New Belgian who makes Fat Tire. But that's not what this is. This is
a triple.
A triple. Okay,
yeah.
So cheers, buddy, and happy
Cheers.
Friday. You just got off work.
I got off about 2:30. No, about 3 o'clock.
Oh, that early?
Yeah.
Are Fridays shorter than normal?
I get off at 2:30
Every day?
every day. Yeah.
Oh, so you're not doing like a 8-hour day.
No.
So for context, and I'm sure we covered it in the first episode, Craig is technically retired, but he obviously had too much time on his hands. So he has now picked up a job. I don't want to call you a tutor because you're officially employed by the school district.
Right. It's called a para-educator.
Para-educator. Okay.
Right. I think para stands for sort of. I don't know what that prefix means.
I don't know what the root language of that word para is, and I don't know the direct translation, but well, para, is that part-time? P-A-R, part-time, para? I mean,
no, I think it's, I don't know. It's like, well, you got like paramedic. Which
good
pretend
point.
to fix you up, but just kind of stabilize you. So you're not really a doctor, but you can perform.
Oh my God, yeah,
some functions.
That's why I like talking to you because you are very fucking smart. Because I didn't make that connection, but it makes complete sense when you're talking about a paramedic versus a medic.
Right.
A paramedic is just trying to get you stable. So Craig is trying to get these kids stable to make it to the next grade.
Correct. And that is.
And I was making a joke, but was that a little too close to home?
No, well, so instead of like being a teacher,
you pushed it away. Get that mic closer. You have important stuff to say. I want to make sure it gets on mic.
So instead of like being a teacher where you're really, creating your own classroom activities and stuff, we teach small groups of kids who are behind.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry. Okay, so now I'm remembering. We've talked about it, but it's coming back to me. You're not in the full regular classroom.
Right.
You're trying to help the students that might need some extra assistance.
Right.
And help them get caught up.
Yeah, the groups are only between 1 and 4 kids.
Oh. And what grades are we talking about?
Kindergarten through 5th.
Wow, that's kind of a big range.
That's a real big range, particularly maturity level.
So do you have to, how much of the different, because every grade is going to have a different curriculum. How familiar do you have to be with every grade's curriculum to be able to help them? I mean, I guess if you're only talking kindergarten through 5th grade, you have a master's degree, I think, right?
Right.
Yeah. So never mind. The curriculum part is easy for you. You're just trying to help these kids learn what they need to know to get to the next level.
Yeah, and these kids are way behind. So, I mean,
and it's not always like mental or developmental disabilities. Maybe it's because they're from a different country. English isn't their first language. Right. So they don't have learning issues. They're behind for other reasons, I'm assuming. And you don't share any more than you have to about that. But
there's all kinds of different kids. You get some that are from different countries who know English but don't know, talking English and reading and writing English is totally different.
Right.
It's much harder to read and write. But you also get kids who are, mentally not as sharp as other kids.
Okay.
You get kids who are emotionally traumatized, who have fallen behind because they just can't.
Because they're having trouble learning in the traditional environment.
Right.
So they fall behind, not necessarily because they can't do it, but just because the environment they were being taught wasn't working for them.
Yeah, and some of it's parent. Most of that's parent related. I mean, if you're bouncing around from school to school and your mom's getting beat up by your dad or your crackheads, living out of we've got kids that are living out of their cars with their mom.
Yeah,
that are going to our school. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on.
Okay.
That kind of stunts.
Yeah, and now that you're technically, I was just being cautious and dancing around the issue. Now that you're actually employed by the school district, I don't know how much you're allowed to share. We're not using names or anything, so, but it's an important issue.
It's a huge issue.
Yeah,
it's.
And we're going to stay anonymous. Nobody's talking about what school you work at or whatever. But yeah, it's.
So everybody, all of the teachers that I've talked to and the paraeducators have said this last 4 or 5 years, they haven't seen anything like this. The number of difficult children, emotional problems.
I'm assuming that had something to do with the fact that for at least a year, maybe longer, they were removed from the classroom and everything was virtual, and a lot of kids fell behind because of that, because not every family had the ability to do virtual education, and there was also a year or two of not getting the social interaction in person. So go ahead, speak on it.
The second grade class, I think, was affected the most by the COVID.
Is that because that's a very important point in childhood development?
They didn't get to socialize with kids through kindergarten, through 4 and 5 year old, their 4th and 5th years of life, and so all of a sudden they were thrown in.
Oh, and they didn't get that time to learn how to go from just being a kid at home to being in school, learning how to interact with other people,
other kids.
Oh, that could stunt their growth.
Yeah, and they're absolute hellions, absolute, just wild banshees. It's unbelievable, it's crazy. So
okay,
and then first grade's probably a little better, but still not like well adjusted socially. So
okay,
and you've got parents who don't care about education, who probably weren't educated, don't see the value in an education.
And every generation has those parents.
And that rubs off on their kids. Why do I need to learn to read? The hardest thing is with those kids is trying to convince them why an education is important.
Why this matters.
Right. Why it matters. Right.
Because we're just, and I think the old standby, when I was in high school and, whatever, I've heard people say it and like, why do I have to learn this subject? I'm never going to use this as an adult.
Right.
And what you can't get when you're that age is, I'm not teaching you this because I think you're going to become a mathematician. I'm teaching you this so you can become a functioning adult. I'm giving you the basic skills you're going to need to function as a productive member of society.
Right.
But when you're that age, you don't always understand how that's going to translate into your adult life.
Right.
Because I remember taking classes in middle school and high school and like, why the hell do I have to learn this? I don't care. Why do I have to learn U.S. history or sociology or whatever?
Right.
Now as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I would have paid attention more.
Yeah. Well, and there's two important reasons for that. One is you don't know what you need to know when you're an adult because you don't know where you're going to go.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to do. Like, I was terrible at French. French was the only foreign language we had. Well, if we'd had Spanish, I would have had the same opinion. I don't need to know Spanish. We have no Spanish speakers in Ohio. Why would I ever need to learn such a stupid language? Everybody speaks English.
Right.
And I come out here and it's like, what, probably a third of the population is Spanish speakers.
Yeah.
It would have been great if I'd learned Spanish, but I never would have had a clue that I would have wanted to learn that.
Yeah.
In high school.
That's, and how I wish the U.S. education system encouraged, like from grade 1 you should be learning a second language. It should be enforced. Like you have to
Right.
take whatever you want. You know, I'm not going to pick it for you, but you need to learn a second language.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the world does.
Right. Right. So yeah, you never know what you're going to need. The other thing is by learning all these different things, you're essentially growing your brain. It's like a muscle. You know, you don't go from being a 98-pound weakling to a 250-pound cut, you know, muscular dude. You got to work at that.
So you're exercising your brain.
Right. So if you make your brain learn new things, you're making new connections in your brain. The neurons are making these different
And
connections.
you're learning how to learn.
Yeah, you're becoming smarter because your brain is you're exercising your brain.
Yeah.
So it turns you into being able to be a critical thinker versus just, you know, sitting there going, duh, whatever, you know.
Whatever I've been taught, whatever I've lived for most of my life, that must be right. And
Right.
so this is something else that a mantra I kind of have picked up on. I didn't coin it, but I've heard it said before. I like being proven wrong. I want somebody to tell me I'm wrong, because every time I learn I'm wrong, I become smarter. I become a better person. Please prove me wrong. I'm not afraid to be proven wrong. Obviously, you've known me long enough that I have strong opinions and I think I'm right about most stuff. But I also always try to be receptive to outside information and new perspectives, because, again, I might have a conviction or a belief that I hold really closely and strongly about.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can prove me wrong, I am open to facts and science and reality.
Right.
Then once I realize that I'm wrong about something, I grow as a person. I don't want to be stuck where I was 10 years ago.
Right. There's a great book that I was forced to read in English class my junior year in high school, which when I was reading it, it was a difficult book to read because it's like the old, you know, 1700s English that's really difficult.
So
to
what
understand.
was it? A fiction book? A book of fiction?
No, it was the book was called On Liberty by, I believe it was John Smith.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard. Well, you're not that much older than me. I had to read that book in high school also.
Painful book to read. And reading it at the time, it's
It's a painful book to read when you're 16.
Yeah, right. And I'm, you know, same thing. I'm like, why do I have to go through this? I hate this, blah, blah, blah. But it was a very influential book because it says that you should constantly allow your beliefs to be challenged to prove that they're right or correct them if they're wrong.
And if you're afraid to have your beliefs challenged,
Right.
then maybe they're not right. If your beliefs can't stand up to criticism,
Right.
that's a problem.
Yeah. And you need to have the right.
So
beliefs.
that's
you
why
constantly have to
we're
challenge that.
friends. You hang out with me because I will challenge your fucking Ohio State bullshit.
Not so much, Ken.
Or your choice in music. You want me to challenge your taste in music because I can fix you.
I've been proving you wrong for years, and you just don't listen.
Oh my God. So anyway, back to on topic.
Yeah. So anyway, that's, you know, you need to learn how to think, and it doesn't matter what you're learning as long as you're being forced to think.
Yeah. Well, and that actually applies. It's so funny how some comedian has made the reference as, or the analogy that we start. It's funny how the way we're born is the way we end up. You're in diapers, somebody has to take care of you. At the end of your life, you're in diapers, somebody has to take care of you.
Right.
And the same thing can be said about your brain. It's like you have to learn when you're a kid, and if you ever stop learning even when you're later in life, that's when everything just declines. So you should never stop learning.
Right.
Ever.
Right. And yeah. I mean, everybody does, but some people look for it and really go after learning, and some people don't, but they're still learning stuff anyway.
Yeah, just kind of by proxy. But I also feel like it's really important as an exercise for your brain to stave off some of the mental decline that can happen through dementia and Alzheimer's and all that stuff.
Right.
If you that they always say that, you know, as soon as somebody retires and they don't have a focus every day, they don't have a purpose.
Right.
That usually they decline fast. But if you keep challenging yourself mentally and physically, even after you retire or even as you get older, that is the fountain of youth, as
Right.
they call it.
Right.
It literally is.
Yep.
Challenge yourself every day, mentally and physically, and even emotionally.
Right.
So,
Yep. So
let's go back. We got off topic, but back to the para-education.
yeah.
You're helping these kids kind of get caught up, and there's several reasons why they might fall behind.
Right.
But it's kindergarten through 5th or 6th grade?
Through 5th grade.
5th grade. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what is there a cycle to it where, does the school you work at do quarters or semesters, or how long is
No,
each?
it's just 1 year straight
So
through.
September through June, and then they
Right.
have summer off.
Right.
And it's continuous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's right. Elementary school, you stay in the same classroom. You don't have different classes you go
Right.
to.
Right.
Is there, throughout the school year, though, is there a point where you work with these kids for several weeks or a month or two, and then at some point they get placed back in the regular classroom within the same year, or do you have the same students all year?
So you do regular testing of the kids throughout the year,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully they're improving.
Okay.
And if they get to grade level, then they graduate out of the small groups. So they'll leave the small group.
And then they go back to their home classroom.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So,
So there is, some kids might have to stay in there the whole year, but some kids will go in.
most kids usually stay in the whole year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you have maybe some families move in and out, new kids to the district that have to join the class in the middle of the year?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We've had new kids. We had one new kid come in this week.
So it's very dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Wow. And is it the structure of the class, is it you're one of the paraeducators? There's probably several of them, and they all have groups of 1 to 4 kids.
right. It's only for 15 minutes. So you got to get after it.
What do you mean 15 minutes?
I'm with them for 15 minutes, and we go through the curriculum that we're given.
Well, I thought they spent the entire time that you're there. I thought
no. It's just a quick one. Just a quick 15 minutes in, and
Oh, so you're cycling through a lot of kids in the same day.
yeah, you have 4 or 5 groups that you have every day.
I'm sorry. I thought you had the same group of kids for the whole 4 or 5 hours you're there.
No.
Oh, so they're trying to help. You're trying to help a lot of kids get caught up, but you have these increments of.
Yeah, these are the kind of kids who've kind of been left behind. So in the classroom setting, they're not going to be able to keep up with the standard curriculum, and they aren't going to pay any attention, because they can't read well enough to do the assignments.
The time they have with you is outside of their home class.
Right.
So they come to see you for 15 minutes, and then they
Right.
go back to their home class.
Right.
And you're trying to help them get caught up on the stuff they might have missed in the regular class.
Right. You're focused just on the 1 to 4 kids.
And whatever trouble area they're having on that day.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
God. Okay.
And we go through a curriculum that, has different lessons, and it gets more advanced as you go through it.
And is it tailored to each group or each student?
Each group it takes a test, and you find out what level they're at.
And then that's what I mean is, can you assign the kids to a group to focus on their particular challenge so that you're not trying, if you have 4 kids, you're not trying to spend that 15 minutes addressing 4 different issues.
Right. And you try to pair up the kids who are at the same level.
Oh, so they can help each other.
Right. And then you may find out one kid's way better than the other one, so you'll switch.
It's very
Switch
dynamic.
groups. Yeah,
oh
it
my
can be.
God.
It can be. Right.
No wonder every Friday we see you, you're so fucking exhausted.
Well, that and I'm 64.
This must be. I'm hesitant to even say it, but this might be easier than trying to run your business in Ohio, man. I'm sorry. This might be harder than trying to run your business in Ohio. Running that sounds like it was easier than this.
It's harder than running a business because the kids are far less predictable,
right,
than your customers and your processes and your the way you make things.
Yeah.
It's far more predictable. You never know what you're going to run into on a school day.
And with the business, even dealing with employee issues, but also just profits and losses, you can kind of predict and you can plan for running the business.
Right.
You can't plan for this.
Yeah. Yeah. And, there'll be a day where all the kids are just absolutely banshees, just crazy. For some reason, everybody just goes nuts that
and
day.
they can't focus. So you almost feel like that 15 minutes, you accomplished nothing because the kids just weren't in the right mindset.
Yeah. And the different personalities you have to deal with and the different traumas that kids have been through.
Oh, my God.
And, you kind of learn, like so my team of paraeducators, there's 3 of us. I have a great group of people, and Jamie can relate to some kids that I can't.
Okay.
And I can relate to some kids that she can't. Some kids warm up to me. Some kids warm up to her. Some warm up to the the other para that we have.
Right.
And so you kind of mix and match. And when I find one that I know I can't deal with very well, but Jamie can, I'll call her over and say, hey, can you take care of
Yeah, but you also
so-and-so?
you learn each other's strong points, and that way when you have a kid that's not like, oh, I know you'd be good with Jamie or the other one.
Yeah. And same with the kids. You kind of feel them out and learn about their lives and how to approach them. You have to approach different kids different ways and around you. And there's 520 kids.
Oh, God.
So you cycle through all these kids. It's like, it's great. I love it. I mean, I love doing it, but it can be really tricky.
So I'm not, we're not getting political. I'm not making any judgments on it. You've been doing this for at least 2 years, maybe longer?
I've been a para about 2.5 years. Yeah.
But even before that, is that when you were just coming into Walter's class, or no, Mike's class?
Right.
You've been doing that longer, just showing up and kind of helping?
Well, I've been working
before you became an official para.
Yeah, I was tutoring and
Tutoring, right.
Yeah. And Walter kind of took me under his wing, and Walter was good friends with Mike Wood, and we'd go into Mike Wood's class.
Was Walter already retired when you met him?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
He was kind of a teacher on special assignment. He'd go from class to class,
right,
and work with the more gifted kids.
Right.
He'd work with the real smart kids, because when you think about it, the smart kids need special programs tailored to their needs too, because they're bored as hell.
I was just going to say, otherwise they'll lose interest and get bored.
Yeah, they're just sitting there,
and then they're wasting their talent. Yeah,
I've done 9 times 6.
Which, okay,
5 years ago.
Let's pause. I guess I am becoming aware of if I ever actually have an audience. It's not that they're gifted. They're not better than anybody, but there are definitely humans on the planet that certain things click easier, whereas even the ones that you might say need paraeducation, there could be things that would click easier for them that would seem alien to other kids, but they haven't discovered it yet. So like everybody has ability,
right?
Right. But maybe the kids that get labeled as gifted in the traditional school system, they just happen to click with what the school system is, so everything's easier for them. Whereas some of the para kids might have abilities that they're really good at, but the education system doesn't foster that or doesn't offer, so nobody even notices that they're. I know. I just slipped into being PC. You know what I'm saying, Craig?
Well, yeah.
The misfits might also have talent that just isn't cultivated in the current education system, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, you've got kids that are just.
Then there are also kids that came from a really bad background.
Call a spade a spade. You've got kids who are gifted.
Yes.
Intellectually are smarter than other kids. I mean, Stephen Hawking's, doesn't matter what his education was, is 100 times smarter than I would have ever been.
All right.
They're just smarter.
Yeah, you're right.
You've also got other kids.
Well, I guess the word smarter is what I'm saying. Their brain works more efficiently.
Right. And you've also got other kids whose parents value an education, have instilled that in their children.
So they have a better support system.
So when they're in their classes, they're eagerly learning.
Yeah.
And thus become better students because they're engaged all the time, versus the parents who I never learned to read. Why did my kid?
And it was encouraged with the one kid.
Right.
And
Right.
and this other kid who his parents didn't encourage it might have been just as capable, but since he didn't
Right.
grow up in that environment, right?
Yeah. So those kids need to be challenged too,
Yeah.
or they become behavior issues.
Yeah.
They get bored off their behinders. What are they going to do? They're going to cause trouble because you just sit in a class and listen to the teacher drone on about stuff you already know.
You don't
Yeah.
or right. Yeah. Okay. So it can go both ways.
Yeah. So that's Walter. Walter filled that niche. Walter is an incredibly smart guy and has a unique knack of bringing mathematical questions to the smart kids and then letting them sort through how to figure it out.
Okay.
And giving them little hints as necessary, but making them
But still making
use
them
their
do
brain to figure out.
making them do the work.
Right.
And kind of learn how to
Yeah.
solve the problem.
Right. So he filled that niche. Of course, he's not doing it anymore, and I don't think
Right.
anybody's filling that niche anymore.
At least not in this area.
Right. I mean, one of the main things I'm frustrated with in the public school system, and I grew up private school from day one. I never set foot in a public school, so I didn't know anything about what public school is like.
Right.
But one of the things I find difficult is you've got a class of 22 kids, and you've got 3 kids who are absolute traumatized, emotional wrecks who spend most of their day throwing chairs across the room and screaming and yelling and hitting other people and hitting the teachers and doing all that. The teacher spends 80% of her time having to control those kids, and everybody else is ignored. From
So
the
what,
average
I was
kid
just gonna say that's taking the teacher's time away from the other 19 students.
right. So they aren't getting the education they need either.
So that's interesting. Those issues never showed up in the private schools.
Well,
You didn't have those troublemakers. I mean, I'm just asking. I don't know,
Yeah.
obviously, but
you had kids who were troublemakers. I guess the way I looked at it, I sent my kids to private school. I'm spending $20,000 a year to get my kid educated.
right.
And if there's a problem with my kid and you let me know, I'm going to square it away. Because I'm spending $20,000 to give you this education.
Oh, okay, that's a good point.
So, God damn it, you're going to
You have an investment in their education,
Right. And I value their education, or I wouldn't spend $20,000.
or you wouldn't have sent them there in the first place.
Right. So I'm highly
Okay.
motivated for my kid to behave and to learn to the best of his ability or her ability. That's the way I looked at my kids. It's like, you don't have to get all A's, but you got to get the best grade you can get. And if you're a C student,
Right.
that's cool. And if you're a B student, that's cool. And if you're an A student, that's cool also. But be the best that you can be.
Yeah.
So you
And-
have
and-
parents who are highly motivated. You have teachers who don't have to deal with the huge. I mean, we never had fights. We never had bullying. I mean, a little bit when we were young, but
Right.
there wasn't a whole lot of bullying, as we got older. And all the kids were motivated to learn, which is drastically
Yeah.
different than the public school system.
And we're not. God, I guess I'm 32 episodes in, and I'm already becoming aware of stuff. We're not trying to say that. We obviously have to acknowledge that not everybody has the means to send their kids to public or
Right.
private schools.
Right. Or is willing to sacrifice to do that.
Okay, there is that.
Right.
Yes, because I guarantee. That's a good point. I'm glad you said that. I guarantee there are lots of parents that have the means,
Right.
but don't. It just
Right.
they don't care enough about it to even try.
Right.
So they just send them to public school and whatever happens happens.
Yeah.
But obviously there's lots of families that don't have the means, even if they would like to, they don't have the means to send their kids to public schools. So there has to be a way. Here's the issue. There has to be a way, because it's publicly funded. We taxpayers pay money for the public schools. How can we make the public school system closer to private schools? We should be able to do that.
Well,
We should be able to.
Right. Well, for starters, the private school my kids went to, student-teacher ratio is 12-1. The student-teacher ratio
And-
here is 20 to 25.
And I'm
to
not
1.
taking sides on this, but that's so funny you mentioned that, because I'm sure you're well aware that the Portland Public School teachers just came off a strike. I think they finally, but one of the big issues was class size.
Right.
The teachers wanted to limit it, and
Evergreen
the district,
was the same way.
the district wanted to keep it up.
Right. Yeah.
And is that just a function of if we have smaller class sizes, we have to hire more teachers, and they didn't want to pay for more teachers? Is that the district's issue? What is the district's argument for not wanting to have smaller class sizes? Because that obviously is going to be better for the kid.
Yeah, we don't have the money.
Because we can't afford to hire. You'd have to have more teachers to have smaller class sizes.
Collectively, we do not want to pay extra taxes to fund the schools to be adequately staffed to really educate our kids.
And that's, you're saying we as the public.
Yeah, the public. Everybody who pays taxes. Yeah. They don't want to pay more taxes.
Because everybody is behind the fact that, yes, class size should be smaller. The teachers should have smaller classes so they can focus more on individual teaching. But then once we put on a ballot measure out where we have to ask you to pay more taxes, nobody wants to do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I'm not taking sides on that. Again, there's struggles on both the teachers union and the school district. Like, we only have this much money. The parents want the fucking world, but every time we put a ballot measure on, they don't want to approve it.
Right.
The teachers also want more. They want more money. They want more prep time.
Right.
They want smaller class sizes.
Right.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yep.
How do you fix it, Craig? You're an economist. How do you fix it? Come on. I'm kidding. I'm not putting pressure on you.
First of all, I have to admit that I'm totally ignorant on the administration of education because that's not my career.
Right.
But one of the things I look at from a business standpoint, you've got teachers who are being paid
less than they should.
No. You've got teachers who are being paid $80,000 to $100,000 a year, and you've got paras who are being paid $25,000 to $30,000 a year. So why not put a para in every classroom? The cheap guys, me.
Right. Okay.
Have them deal with
the two or three
behavioral issue kids,
so that the actual teacher that's making $100,000 can focus on the rest of the class.
on the rest of the average to above average kids.
Yeah.
And those kids don't have to deal with the screaming kids who are taking up all the teachers'
Is that
time.
And I don't know, is that a union issue where the teachers union is hesitant to let para, because as a para, I'm assuming you're not part of the union.
There is a para union and there's a teacher union, two separate ones.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Para union isn't nearly as strong as the teacher.
So I'm assuming the teachers union might feel threatened by letting the paras do too much work.
The teachers I've talked to would love to have an assistant in their classroom all the time. It's just simply a matter of funding. You would have to pay more money, but you wouldn't have to pay as much.
You wouldn't have to pay a full teacher salary with benefits. Right. Okay.
Right. And in my naive opinion, there are certain classes that I think you just don't need. We have a creative movement class in our school with a teacher.
Don't get me started on this shit.
Yeah. Basically, it's just another recess is all they do.
Yeah.
So why do we have that? If you're paying that teacher $80,000, you can pay three paras.
If you had an unlimited budget, have all the electives you want.
Right.
But if you have a limited budget, let's focus on the important stuff.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, art and music I think are very important.
Oh,
very important.
I know you weren't talking about that.
But creative movement? I mean, come on.
That's recess.
That's three extra paras you could have in your class, being in somebody else's class, helping out their class, reducing the student-teacher ratio.
Yeah. All right. Let's pause. I'm actually going to pause it because we both need a refill.
Yes.
And I don't want to just, because I hate to edit, so I don't want to have to go back and edit this.
Good one too. I like that. You're all right, Ken. I don't care what I say about you.
Wow. At least publicly.
Yeah, you should hear what I say when you're not around.
No, people have told me, get in front of the mic again. Just make sure everything's working.
All right. Good?
Oh my God, you sound amazing. You should have been the radio, dude. Yeah, So I almost feel like we should do an explanation about because for all like 3 of my viewers that saw the first episode we did, Miles is not as active right now because Miles has managed to injure his both rear Achilles.
Yeah, both.
So the Achilles on both of his rear legs it's a strain or an actual
Partial tear.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
All right, so Miles is going in for surgery on December 19th to get that fixed, but that's why Miles is being more mellow. Craig took him out for a walk right before we started the podcast, and now I think after the exercise, he's realizing, I'm kind of sore.
Right.
So Miles is still here. He was the star of the first one,
Right.
But that's why he's not being so involved this time.
So I do want to say one thing first.
Oh, go. And closer to your mouth. Closer. Bring it. Don't be afraid of the phallic
Better?
symbol.
All right.
Closer.
It's COVID. There's COVID all over it.
No, there's not. I sterilized it.
All right. So anyway, one thing I want the 3 viewers you have to understand is that I'm not claiming that I am an education expert.
Right.
So on the theory of the on liberty experiment thing that I talked about,
Yeah.
I like to throw my ideas out, and I do this at school all the time with the teachers and the people who've been doing this for a long time, and then they can tell me how stupid I am or not about it.
Right.
But these are my observations, and I throw it out there, and I let people tell me that I'm either full of crap or you're right.
So it goes back to you. You're like, look, I have ideas, thoughts, observations, but prove me wrong, and I learn. So I'm learning, but that's how things get better. Is a lot of people have to or offer their ideas and their perceptions, and then you filter through it and find the best one.
Yeah,
So,
I don't want to come across as an arrogant asshole who has all the answers.
No, you are an arrogant asshole, but we also know that, especially on this topic and most others, you don't know everything, just like I don't know everything, even though we're both arrogant pricks.
Right.
So,
all
right.
I know to some extent I'm wrong about some stuff because I'm still new at this.
We are, yes.
And so I learn by throwing that out there and people saying, no, you dumbass.
Yes.
This is what you're missing.
And we talked about it earlier. I love being wrong because every time I'm wrong, I grow as a person.
Exactly.
I look forward to being proven wrong.
As I tell my kids, if you're not wrong, you're not learning.
Seriously.
Because you already knew it.
There you go.
So that's why they put erasers on pencils.
Yes, and everybody should stop using pens, metaphorically.
Well,
obviously, use a
Stephen Hawking can probably use pens because he was never wrong.
Who? I'm sorry, say
Stephen Hawking?
No, he actually was wrong. There was a moment there in the early 2000s where he admitted he was wrong on one part of his theory.
There you go.
Now, this is where I start geeking out because I pay attention to that shit. But yeah, even Stephen Hawking was wrong about one thing.
There you go.
Just one time.
Right.
Happened that one time at band camp.
Right. So I'm just searching for how I can best help the kids. And I do that by trial and error.
Yes. And to qualify it, the reason I actually... And again, this is why I don't script it. I did not know how the start of the podcast was going to go, but I loved doing that deep dive into it.
Yep.
But I have, since I met you, especially that camping trip up north at Ike-Kinswald when Sean and his whole family came and his kids were there, I just saw how you loved engaging with the kids, and the questions you asked and the way you talked to them, it was very positive and encouraging, but it was also, you weren't just going to give them the answer. And you're like, I can just tell that this was a natural progression as a post-retirement job.
I love
You're
doing that.
really fucking good at doing this.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And obviously the tutoring you've done with that family, they must be close to here. That you met at that school.
Well, the Afghan family this summer moved to Iowa.
Oh.
So I lost them. Lost the kids.
Was that a good thing? Was it a job opportunity for Dad, or do you even know?
Well, I think their dad was fed a bunch of crap to get them, to lure them to Davenport, Iowa. He said... There's an Afghan community there, and these guys are saying, oh, yeah, there's $20 an hour jobs here, and the cost of living is so cheap, which it is in Iowa. It's very cheap to live in Iowa. But their minimum wage is $8.25 an hour.
But he was moving there for a $20 an hour job, which
For the promise of
but
a
if
$20
but if
an
but
hour
if
job.
that sounded appealing to him, I'm wondering what he was making here.
Well,
He had to
$20
be making less than that.
right, $20 an hour here isn't when the minimum wage is $15 an hour in comparison is nothing like $20 an hour where
Okay.
the minimum wage is $8.25.
Yeah.
I mean, it is dirt cheap to live in the Midwest for a reason, because the Midwest sucks. It's
doesn't
boring.
suck. It has.
It's boring. It has nothing to offer.
This is where I'm going to have to edit shit out because Craig just he talks without a filter sometimes. Look, it has its qualities. I've driven through there. I was a truck driver.
So my concerns were that, I think he was being fed a
line of bullshit.
baloney to get him to come here, go there, and then be taken advantage of.
Oh, that sucks.
Right.
Okay.
And B, it's like it's a red state and very conservative, and they don't take kindly.
So that's going to be really good for his kids' development and impression of America to grow up there. Yeah, that should be awesome.
Well, and there'd be more bigotry there because they're brown.
Yeah, yeah.
But I talk to the kids every once in a while. I'll call and talk to them, and they seem to be doing really well, and they seem to
Good.
really like it. So maybe it will work out for them.
All right, cool.
So, but I was
There's
really
hope.
concerned.
There's hope.
That and they were like my grandkids. I mean, I miss the hell out
I
of them.
know.
It was brutal when they left. So
Oh, you might have mentioned it to us, but I don't remember you telling me they left. I thought you were still working with them also.
no,
I'm sorry.
they left. So
All right. So we covered Miles, who is going to get fixed in like a week. Lee and Kristin.
Yep.
We have to talk about them.
All right.
So just give me an update. The last time I talked to Kristin, it was when she couldn't get a hold of you, and she was like, "Where the fuck's my dad?"
Yeah.
But anyway, Lee is still in San Diego. Kristin is still in Colorado.
Kristen's still in Denver. Absolutely loves Denver. Great fit for her.
Okay.
She's really blossomed as a person. Is in her element.
Her
Really
knee
good
her
fit
knee
for
is doing really good with all the therapy and recovery.
It's doing well. No, I wouldn't say really good, but it's doing okay.
Is it is it something that's always going to just for the rest of her life, or?
So when you have an ACL replacement, you need to go through all of the physical therapy religiously.
Yeah, of course.
And the physical therapy hurts.
Oh, yeah.
Kristen won't do that. Lee did that, and his knees are very good.
All right.
Kristen shortcuts her physical therapy.
You sure? Kristen might see this. You sure you want to say that on
Yes,
mic?
she knows. We've talked about it.
All right. Love
Yeah.
you, Kristen.
Yeah, we've talked about it. So she's hung up on me a couple times over it.
I'm shocked. Somebody hung
Right.
up on you? No way.
Yeah. But she's back playing soccer again. So
Okay. Well, that's therapy,
we're
right?
in her knee braces. Yeah. She's doing well. She has a boyfriend now. They've been going out about 2 months.
Okay.
So she actually took him to my sister-in-law's house. They live in Denver
Okay.
for Thanksgiving. So it must be pretty serious, or she wouldn't have bothered taking him there.
That's cool.
So-
Now, but her job situation.
Yeah.
On the last podcast, she was doing it was some kind of sales, but I don't remember.
Right. She was doing sales for a company that sells like individual office suites for people, small businesses, like an attorney who just needs an office.
Was it a timeshare thing where I need to book it for this many 3 days a week, or was it like it's yours the entire time?
That's a good question. I don't entirely
Because that's
know
a thing
that.
now where there's a
Yeah.
lot of entrepreneurs, especially with the tech industry, they just want an office space that they can use for a few hours a week. So it's a shared space, but anyway,
I don't know if they do that, but it's
is that still what she's
yeah,
doing now?
She's still doing that.
Okay.
She got a job offer from a client of theirs selling carpeting
Okay.
for commercial use, commercial carpeting, not like residential.
Right.
And it was paying a lot more money. And she called me up and it was like, what do I do? What do I do? It's like, well, first of all, selling carpeting sucks. It's boring as hell. And in 6 months, you're going to hate it. But you can talk to your bosses and say, hey, I had this job offer. I really, really want to stay here, but they're paying way more than you. Is there anything you can do for me? So that she could keep the job that she loved
Right.
and get a nice pay raise. And
Yeah.
she did that, and they came up with a really nice
All right.
pay increase for her. So now she's making money where she can live pretty decently. Still in debt because as soon as she earns it, she spends it.
But is it still? Is she actually having to go out like in-person sales, or is it all working?
No, she
from
doesn't
home?
like do cold calling and
No,
and try to
is
build
it
a
virtual,
business,
or is she doing like going out to the businesses, contacting them and trying to?
I think she has to go into the office.
Okay.
And she meets potential customers who come in and
Because she has to show the spaces that
Right.
are potentially for rent.
Right.
Okay.
show,
But-
yeah,
but
show
is
the
it,
facilities and everything.
Monday
that-
through Friday job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She has weekends off and
Yep.
regular
she- yeah.
schedule.
And she enjoys the job. She enjoys the
Okay,
work,
that's
So-
cool.
which is unusual. I think this is the second job she had that she really enjoyed. And the first job lasted like 4 months. Then COVID hit and
Yeah.
she got laid off,
All right.
which was a shame. So yeah, she really is coming into her own. So
And then Lee is Lee with the same company that he was when he
Yeah.
went to San Diego?
right.
Okay.
And probably will stay in it.
Oh, so he's
Forever.
happy there.
He makes a lot of money. Or he makes enough money
Okay.
for his lifestyle and to save. He knows the job really well. It's kind of boring.
It's a tech job, right? So he works from home.
Yeah, he works from home he can do everything on his computer.
He told me and I can't remember it. Is this a software engineering company?
It's an engineering company, but they make a software product. They develop control systems for large gas turbines, for like power plants. Gas
Oh,
turbines
okay.
for power plants, and it's a software that runs the.
So what is his job in the company?
He designs the program for the individual locations. Like each location would have
It's
a different.
different.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Right.
you have to kind of cater it to that location.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but it's
So every time his company gets a new client, he has to specialize the software for that client.
right.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting for Lee, and I enjoy what he's doing because it's like kind of the opposite of what I did. I mean, my career always took precedence. My career was job one, worked my ass off. Quality of life was not as good as it could have been. And he's chosen to balance his quality of life with his job. His job's more boring than he would like it to be, but he makes a good income and he lives in San Diego, lives in a cool place, and can do cool things.
Yeah.
So I kind of, looking back on my life, it's like, maybe I should have done a little more of that.
That is funny that you mentioned that because it's a generational thing.
Right.
Our kids' generation has a different outlook on the work-life balance thing.
Right.
And I recorded in August with my friend Julie, who lives in Bend. She came over and we did a podcast, and she talked about this because she also she wasn't a paraeducator, but she has a full-time job with the city of Bend. But she also was on the school board for like 12 years or maybe longer. Sorry, Julie, I'm getting this wrong. But anyway, she was involved in the school district, and she was like, there's this generation of kids. Like, she has 2 sons. She's like, their priorities are completely different than ours were.
Right.
They are more about work-life balance, and they're not necessarily looking to just nose to the grindstone 70 hours a week and just
Right.
and this
Right.
and like
Right.
they're more about like, okay, I just want a job that I can pay my bills, but I still want to go snowboarding or I want to go surfing or
Right.
and so it is a different perspective.
Well, and your Kristin does that too.
Oh, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and they're probably right.
Well, I think there is value in both of them. I think
Yeah.
our more conservative view on things like, look, you get a job that gives you a retirement and a steady paycheck and job security and buy a house and invest in property because that. But there's probably, but also, like I remember you telling me several years ago, you're like, every overtime opportunity, fucking take it. That's just going to your 401k.
Right.
So that's actually good advice, but maybe there is a balance to not always saying yes to overtime for
Right.
the sake of overtime.
Right.
So
Yeah, I never could do that,
yeah.
and I think Lee's probably got it right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, being an engineer, you also start out with a nice income right off the get-go. Versus, I mean, my first
Yeah.
job was $6.25 an hour.
Right.
So, I
well,
had no choice.
my first job was 380, 375 or 380 an hour when I was in high school working at a local grocery store in Canby, Oregon in the 80s, the early 80s or mid 80s. Yeah. Minimum wage was like $3.50 an hour.
Right.
But yeah, it is my first actual job as an adult was way lower than what our kids are making now. I'm like, it just, I don't understand. I've had this conversation with so many people where I don't understand how the tech industry can, all these virtual jobs where all you're producing is online services, online content, web design, services, Uber, whatever you want to call it, DoorDash. But it's all services and online products. I'm like, how can you afford to pay all your employees 6-figure salaries when you're not actually making something? Like you're not making a car, but it's a different paradigm.
Right. Well, so like Lee's business job, the control system he's making for the gas turbines may be saving that power plant $3 million a year. So they're willing to pay through the nose for the product.
Because the software he designed is making it more efficient.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they're willing to pay through the nose for the product, which means there's not very many people who can do.
So if they're saving $2 or $3 million, they can afford to pay his company $200,000 to do it.
Yeah, and pay Lee $100,000 a year to design it.
It is. It's just a different because I'm not in the tech industry, but I'm like, God, there's so many people making so much money in the tech industry.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus Christ, man.
But you got to be really smart.
Well, it's not about being smart. You have to have those skills. But our kids' generation grew up with those skills. We didn't grow up with those skills. They're more innate to them, I feel like.
Well, the college I went to was their strongest suit was engineering.
But was it physical mechanical engineering
or
was it
electrical and civil engineering?
Right, but was it like computer software engineering? That's completely different. You know what I mean?
Didn't have a big computer software engineering program because computers weren't a huge thing back then.
That's what I'm talking about. It's a totally different world when you're talking about engineering with software.
Yeah, right.
Versus physical things.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I knew when I went to that school, it's like, I'm not smart enough to be an engineer. I'm just not. I don't have that brain to do that stuff. I don't. And I'm okay with that.
I don't know that you don't have the brain. Maybe it just didn't interest you enough.
No, I could not have.
All
been
right,
an
Jesus
engineer.
Christ. You're being humble.
As an engineer.
Mark the date and time. I believe it is December 9th. Is that what it is? No, December 8th of 2023. Craig actually said he's not that smart. First time ever.
No, I didn't know. Okay, this is the way I look at myself, all right? I am slightly above average in intelligence, but I got the best education that money could buy.
Right.
So it's not that I'm smart, but I'm knowledgeable.
Right.
Because I've learned a shitload of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So, and what I try to get across to my son, who's very smart, is that, I call people, sometimes I say you're ignorant. And people think that means you're stupid.
That's not a pejorative.
That doesn't mean you're stupid.
No,
it means you just don't know.
Right. That's all that word means, but it has a bad context.
Right.
Right.
So because I had a very good education, I learned a lot of things. Doesn't mean I'm really smart. I just have knowledge. Yeah. I was fed more stuff, more intelligent stuff, more smart stuff.
Yeah.
Which got me, I realized when I was a junior in college also that I couldn't make it on my brains, that I had to work my ass off.
Yeah.
I had to work harder.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't work smarter. And the school I went to was slightly below. It was like the next level below Ivy League.
Right.
So I went
right.
to a really tough school.
Yeah.
And it was extremely challenging for me. And on an intellectual level, I couldn't compete with those people. So I had to work harder.
You put in the work.
Yeah. I kind of took that all through my career. I'm not the smartest manufacturing guy, but I'll work as hard. I'll work my ass off.
Yeah.
So you say I'm smarter. I just say I'm well educated.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between
Huge difference.
I mean, there's a. I feel like there's a fine line between intelligence. I mean, with the fucking IQ test. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Because if you want to pass a test, I mean, anybody can memorize knowledge and recite it back onto a test.
Particularly short term.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay. So one of the things I did have on a virtual bullet point in my head that I wanted to talk to you about was you got to go see the Women's World Cup in New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah,
it was all in New Zealand, or was part of it
New
in
Zealand
Australia?
and Australia.
So there was games in both.
Right.
And that was this past summer.
Right.
July, August, I forgot when it was.
Mid-July to I think August 3rd we came back.
Okay, and you spent 2 weeks there.
Yep.
It was you and Sean and who else went?
My son.
Oh, Lee went. I'm sorry, Lee.
Yep.
I love you, man.
a good friend of my son's who went to the Russian World Cup, men's
Right.
World Cup with us, so I knew him real well. We get along real well. And his fiance.
Okay. But 2 weeks there.
Yeah.
Did you spend a week in Australia and New Zealand
Right.
each?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
How long is the plane ride? Isn't it like
It's about 19 hours.
Oh, I was going to say 16, but it's 19
Yeah,
hours.
it's brutal. Yeah.
And I'm assuming you didn't pay for first class, but
Hell no.
I would hope that on those kind of international flights that there's a little bit more room, even in coach. The seats are a little
you
bit
have
bigger.
more leg room. Yep. And you've got a little video screen in the back of the seat in front of you that you can watch movies.
Oh,
or
I mean,
play.
even actually, I don't know if you're right. On domestic flights, they don't. The chairbacks don't all have TVs, but they do give you free Wi-Fi, so I could watch stuff on my phone at least. But so you had movies, you could plug a headphone in,
games and all that kind of stuff to kind of keep you entertained.
But still, 19 hours total. But I'm assuming there was a stop somewhere.
I laid over in Honolulu for about 2 hours.
So from Portland to Honolulu,
Right,
and then Honolulu to
New
Australia.
Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand first. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, God, what? I have not been on a plane for more than I think 5.5 hours. What the fuck was that like, man?
Oh, it's
Are you able to sleep?
getting there's not bad because you're so excited you're going.
Oh, right.
Coming back is the drag.
Oh, Jesus.
Because it's like, yep, coming back, know what this is all about. Nothing exciting going on. Back to the daily routine, and you're tired from traveling. So,
Yeah. Well, let's not bitch about the flight.
Yeah.
You get there in New Zealand first.
Yep.
Stay there for 7 days.
Yep.
And I'm assuming you got a hotel or Airbnb, whatever, right close to the venue.
Yeah, our first stop was Auckland, New Zealand.
Okay.
Which is northern top of the country.
Okay.
We got a hotel, stayed there several days, watched the game live, did some touristy stuff.
So were the games in New Zealand all happening in the same stadium?
There were I think it was 4 venues in New Zealand.
And then how many in Australia?
Probably about 4 or 5 in Australia as well.
Okay.
So then we took just a little puddle jumper down to Wellington, New Zealand.
Farther south?
Right. North. There's 2 islands, north and south.
Right.
So Auckland's at the northern end of the North Island, and Wellington's the southern end of the North Island.
Okay.
Watched another game there. Did some more touristy stuff. Then we went to Sydney and we spent the most time in Sydney because it's a big city.
Right.
Watched a game there, touristy stuff. And then we went to Melbourne.
Okay.
Which
I think
Melbourne is what we call it, but it's Melbourne.
Is Melbourne north of Sydney on the coast?
It's south.
It's
and a little east.
Oh, it's inland.
No, it's right on the shore.
But Australia curves this way, so it's even if you're going north, you're going east.
Every city that's anything is on the coast in
Right.
in Australia because the middle's desert.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, so we watched 4 games? No, 3 games in all.
In person, in the
person.
stadium.
Yeah.
But then there was, I remember you telling me there was other games that you would just be near the venue and find a sports bar and
Yep.
watch other games.
Right.
And obviously, God, that had to be an incredible influx of people from all over the gosh damn world for this event. It's kind of a big deal.
It was really weird.
Was it, so I guess contrast it from going to Russia. How was it different?
So there's several things that were different. The men's World Cup in Russia.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was the men's world. Russia was men's. This one was women's. Okay.
Right. So the men's World Cup in Russia was mostly, the tourists were mostly men, whereas in the women's was mostly families. So the Women's World Cup was more family oriented.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. Russia, it was one big party. Huge party. And all of Russia was totally into the World Cup, and they were all partying their butts off. So you had the Russians partying. You had all these foreign
that came in for
people come in who were partying. Great big huge party. Great fun. Great mixing of cultures and meeting unusual people, different people from all over the world, including the Russians. The Russians were wicked friendly. Yeah. Great hosts.
Yeah.
They'd just latch onto you and hang with you the whole night and take you here and take you there, and we'd have great fun. And they'd talk about all the misperceptions they have of America, and we'd talk about all the misperceptions
that we have of them. Yes,
and talk about Putin, and we'd talk about, at that point we were talking about Trump because Trump was president.
Jesus
Christ! Round and round we'd all go.
Craig, do not tell me that you talked about Trump when you were in Russia.
Absolutely.
Hey, you don't have a filter. God,
everybody. Wait a minute. On my defense,
I'm just fucking.
Everybody
with you.
from every country asks us, "What the fuck are you Americans doing? What is this Trump shit?" They did. I had a French woman just ready to fight me. She was so mad at me. And I had to say, time out.
And you're like, I didn't vote for him.
I said, I didn't vote for him. I'm protesting. I'm working my butt off to get him out. It's not my fault.
She might have.
Then we were friends.
She might have been a couple of sips of vodka in, but okay. But she was
everybody
ready. She was ready to fight you.
But everybody's just like, what the hell are you guys doing over there? They just want to know what was, what, why? They all knew it was stupid, and they're like, why? So I didn't start them. But,
for the first time ever,
but
it wasn't Craig's fault.
Yeah. So I had a couple of people in New Zealand, Australia ask me about it too. We had a couple conversations about.
Yeah, but you said it was
very
different in New Zealand, where it was more families.
Right, it's more family oriented.
I mean, I'm sure there was still a bunch of fans, people that came to see the event, but it just wasn't so intense.
The host countries also, New Zealand and Australia, are not huge soccer fans. They're cricket and they're Australian
rugby, Australian rules football.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, there's something going on. I think it's called the World Cup, women's. I don't know, but. Yeah, but how about those All Blacks? That's the New Zealand. Yeah, I'm not being racist. That's the New Zealand rugby team.
No, that's the team.
Yeah,
yes.
So they're just like, yeah, there's something going on. I don't know what it is. Yeah, you foreigners are here. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, but we can't find parking down here. I guess there's something going on at the stadium.
Yeah. And when are you guys gonna leave? That's kind of the impression I got. I talked to very few. They're also a much more reserved culture. So
just by their nature.
Yeah. If you ask them for help or you look like you need help, they're more than happy to help you, and they're very helpful.
He just farted.
Yeah, probably.
I thought it was my breath, and I'm like, no, that's Miles.
Yeah.
Miles just farted. He's right behind me. Anyway, go ahead.
So they're very polite. They're very willing to help you, but it was extremely hard to just strike up a conversation with a random New Zealander or strike up a conversation with a random Aussie. It just wasn't that. They didn't seek you out, and if you talk to them, they were very standoffish and.
Well, so I'm guessing if there was such a thing as a World Cup for Australian rules, they probably would have been all in.
It'd be bonkers.
Right. So it's just
Yeah.
it's like if you oh my Miles, seriously? Did you shit your pants? God, it's
No.
just getting worse.
He's like, what?
Like if you, I'm trying to think of a contrast. If you brought, I don't know, cricket and tried to have a World Cup of cricket in America, like nothing would happen.
Yeah. Or even like lacrosse.
Right,
Okay, lacrosse. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Have fun. See you later.
Now, was that the first time you'd been to New Zealand and Australia?
Yeah.
Oh, so,
Yeah, by
okay.
far.
So that's the important point.
Yeah.
What was, and I don't know how much you were there for the event, but how much time did you get to see the countryside and explore the cities? And
Well, we did a lot more tourist stuff than we did in Russia because Russia, the cultural exchange in the World Cup itself was just so extraordinary.
right,
That, we just go to a bar, watch a game, and hang out with,
that was the experience.
Argentinians.
That was the experience.
yeah,
there.
that was the experience.
But in New Zealand, you had time to kind of check out the country.
Yeah.
And I've heard that New Zealand is more about the mountains.
yeah, New Zealand's beautiful.
Yes, a lot more
Countryside-wise.
like epic peaks and mountains. Where
Right.
Australia, not so much necessarily.
Right.
So you were in Sydney. You got to see that famous picture of the bay in Sydney that has the weird whatever. You see it in every
Right.
movie.
It has the
film.
opera house. And,
Is that what that is? It's an opera house.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
Was it more? I'm assuming it was more impressive in person, because I've seen it in so many movies.
Actually, the opera house itself, I thought was kind of a letdown.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't as big as you always
Think
thought
it's
it was
gonna
when
be?
you see the pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw it and it was cool, and the whole harbor where it's in is neat.
Okay.
Sydney was like a huge city experience. New Zealand, the cities were a little bit smaller, but
And is Melbourne, Melbourne, or however you say it, is
Yeah.
it smaller than Sydney?
it's smaller. It's still, you got
A
huge
city.
skyscrapers
It's a
and all
city.
that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
Sydney is the biggest city by far,
Right.
and it was just had that huge city
Feel to it.
feel to it. And I'm not a big city guy, but I loved Sydney.
Really?
It was so efficient, so easy to get around, clean. The sidewalks were like 3 times the width of normal sidewalks, so you're not like asses to elbows pushing everybody around to get across the street and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff. Beautifully clean, multicultural, huge Asian population there.
Okay, because they're a lot closer, obviously.
Yeah, right. The public transportation was a breeze. It's the way a big city really should be.
Okay.
And I looked at it, it's like, why can't our cities be like this? Why aren't our cities this cool?
We obviously, somebody on the planet has figured out how to make it that way. So we can do it. Here's the model.
Right. And I'm a statistics nerd, so I
Right.
got on my phone. The GDP per capita, gross domestic product per capita, is $10,000 less per Australian than it is in America.
So where are they getting the funding from?
Well, because they're paying the taxes to do it, where we won't.
Okay.
It's a want to. We could be like that. We have more money. We have more tax revenue available.
We
if
have a higher
chose to.
GDP, obviously.
Yeah. We just would rather live in shithole big cities
Yeah.
than pay the taxes.
Or would you rather just hoard that, whatever extra 10% that it would cost of our paycheck to.
Right.
We'd rather hoard that.
But then we complain about our big cities.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
The Australians are willing to pay to make their cities nice. There's very few homeless. I think in Sydney I saw maybe 4 homeless people the whole time I was there.
Wow.
Yeah. And yet, here, even in Vancouver, right?
I know. Yeah.
We have more homeless in Vancouver than they have in the entire city of Sydney.
I
And
wonder if
that's a want to, not a can't.
Yeah. Well, okay, but is there also a better support system to help those people?
Yeah, they have the support system. They provide
because
places
they
for
fund
people
it.
to live,
They
the
fund
homeless
it.
to live. They fund it. Yeah.
Oh.
I asked the Australians about the homeless. It's like, why do you have so few homeless? We got tons of homeless. It's like, well, if you see a homeless person on the street, it's because they want to be there, because they could find someplace to live if they wanted to.
They have an option.
So for mental illness or whatever has got them, PTSD, maybe they can't.
There's services for that.
Right. They have the services. They pay their taxes for the services to help those people out.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So for the United States, the answer is we don't want to fix that problem. We aren't willing to fix, like the education system.
Yeah.
We aren't willing to pay the taxes to have a good education system.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that because there was, I forgot the author's name, but he wrote a book called San Francisco. And it was kind of the whole, what's happened there now. He's like, look, there is an entire industry that people are making a lot of money. People are being paid a lot of money, and there's an entire industry and business and jobs that are created to not solve the homeless crisis.
Right.
People are making money in that industry, publicly funded or community outreach stuff. But if we actually solved it, they would lose their jobs. So there's an incentive to not fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm probably butchering it, but yeah, there is a. If you have somebody on a pick your city, but who is a homeless advocate that is making 6 figures a year, what is their motivation to solve the problem? Because if we solve homelessness, they lose their job.
Right. Well, and if you're making that kind of money, you can isolate yourself away from that problem, so you don't see it as much as having a small business where you've got tents of homeless people right in
like
front
every
of you.
time you're trying to open your storefront, you're dealing with that.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I gotta pee. I'm gonna pause one more time.
Yep.
Ow.
So do I.
Ow. Are we on the same schedule? Is that like we're ovulating?
All right.
And we're an hour and 12 minutes into it, so we don't have to go crazy long because we're both old and we're both friggin' tired. But I am gonna ask you a few more questions.
All right.
Ouch! Ow! Ow! Miles, you have been so amazing this time, and I know it's because you're injured. I'm sorry, hun. It's really he's
it's
really
bothering
hurting
today.
He's really after that walk. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. You want to come?
Oh, I'm glad you can get on the couch though. Yeah, just
There you go,
relax,
bud.
lay down.
There you go.
You can be next to Daddy.
Yeah, you're really
Oh.
hurting today. Oh.
Daddy's gonna fix it like in a week. It's fine. Poor Miles. So let's get this out of the way.
Right.
Kenny Chesney is going to be in Seattle at Seahawks Stadium next July. So I know you and Kristin have bought your tickets.
No. We're good, thanks.
Oh my God, I was kidding.
Can you lay down?
Oh, Miles, yes, you're a good puppy. So the games themselves, though, you said you saw 4 in the stadiums?
3.
3.
Yeah.
And how? So okay, you've been to stadiums in America. Are they about the same size, like 50, 60, 70,000 people? But were these stadiums dedicated to soccer, or is it more dedicated to like Australian rules? So is the layout of the stadium a little bit different?
I think a couple of them were multi-use.
Okay.
Like rugby/soccer. But they were big stadiums. They're probably around 60 to 70.
And this just dawned on me. What month were you there?
July, which is their winter.
Their winter. That
Right.
just hit me. Southern Hemisphere. So what
Right.
was the weather like? Do you have to deal with the rain?
New Zealand, it was mostly 50s to lower 60s.
Okay.
We hit Sydney, and we had an unusual warm spell, so it was like low 70s.
So was there some of the matches rain? Of the ones you were in the stadium, did you have to deal with the rain, or was it not raining?
No, we didn't have any rain.
And it wasn't like too cold.
No.
Okay.
No, I was never really uncomfortable cold.
So what section? How close to the field were you? Were your seats?
It varied just depending on the venue and whoever the teams that were playing. Like
Okay.
USA games would go the sales.
Oh,
will go
so I
pretty
guess
quick.
we should say that. What team did you actually get to see play?
I saw USA play Netherlands, which was great fun. The hotel I was staying at, I went down. I got up earlier than pretty much everybody else, just because that's my.
That's your routine.
I just
yeah.
get up early. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was down having a cup of coffee and a donut or a bagel or whatever, and ran into a woman that was in the U.S. Outlaws, American Outlaws, which is a club that follows the women's soccer team everywhere, and they're the ones that beat the drums and
So
do
it's
all the chants.
it's
and
like
all that
it's
fun
like
stuff.
the Timbers Army. It's like
Yeah,
it's a
right.
fan group that follows
Right.
them. Okay.
For the national, U.S. national team.
Right. Got
So
it.
I ran into her and was talking to her, and we had tickets. She says, "Well, we're meeting a couple hours before the game for like a what do you call it?
Pre-funk.
A warm up. Just have
Right.
a couple beers.
Yeah.
So we're meeting at this place a couple hours early, and then we're all going to march down to the stadium. So that was great fun.
Did you march with them?
Yeah, oh yeah,
That
yeah.
is cool.
And I didn't get to do that in Russia because the USA team didn't qualify. So there weren't any Americans. There were no American games. So yeah, that was fun. We hung out with all the Americans.
And I don't remember. I should. Did U.S. win that game or no?
That was a tie. We
Okay.
tied them. Yeah.
That was the tie before they got kicked out. The next game, I think they lost. Is that right?
They made it into the first round, I think, and they lost in the first round of the. So you've got group play,
Right.
right? You know what that is?
Well, I know that there's a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket kind of a thing.
So you've got like 5 or 6 different groups of 4 teams, and those groups all play each other.
Right.
And then the top 2 teams from each group go into the single elimination playoffs.
Well, I was going to say, when it begins, you can lose or tie 1 or 2 games, but at
Right.
some point, if you lose again, you're out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Half of the group doesn't make it.
Okay.
Half the group advances on.
Okay.
And then from there, it's single elimination. You lose, you're out.
And so the game against the Netherlands that they tied,
Right.
that was what part of the bracket was that?
That was in group play. Everything I saw was in group play.
Okay.
I wanted to do group play because you had more people from more countries who would be there
right,
at the
right.
time. So we saw that one. We watched Germany-Colombia, which was by far the best game I saw.
You
And
saw
the
that live.
Yeah,
though.
and the craziest fans. The
Really?
Colombian fans were insane.
I was like, that kind of makes sense. Soccer is big in South America.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just screaming their heads off, roar of the crowd the whole time. And Colombia they went up 1-0, then Germany tied it up. And then in stoppage time, like in the last 2 minutes of the game, Colombia scored a goal to win. So it was a great game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a cool game.
Jesus.
And then I can't remember the other 2 teams that I saw off the top of my head. They're fairly insignificant. I mean,
Right.
neither one was great, but it was a fun game. So, and then when we went to Melbourne, I've got a college buddy who lives in Sydney. He's lived there for 30 years.
Okay.
And I got in contact with him. He flew to Melbourne to meet us there.
Oh, crap. I think you briefly talked about him on our first podcast. I remember this. You had a friend down there.
Yeah, that I was going to meet. Right.
Yes.
Right. So we went to an Australian rules football game with him. There happened to be one in Melbourne.
So you actually got to see one of those live?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Wait a minute. So I missed that whole part of the story because, ever since you and Sean got back, we've talked a little bit about it, but I didn't realize you actually had the time to go see in Melbourne.
Yeah.
How big was that stadium? Like as big as where the Timbers play?
Yeah, that was, well, it was more like as big as the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, it's that big.
Yeah, that big.
It's huge.
It's huge, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we spent the first quarter trying to figure out what the hell was going on.
Well, okay, that's funny because my stepson, Pam's son Brady, I watched him play rugby, but rugby is a little bit different than Australian rules,
Right.
I think.
Right.
You're still. Oh, is the main difference that in rugby the only way you can score is for somebody to carry the ball across the goal line, but in Australian rules you can score by kicking through uprights. Is
Right.
that the main difference?
Pretty much. It's not. Australian rules football is not as physical as rugby.
Oh, it's not. It looked really physical to me.
It's kind of like flag rugby.
Really?
Yeah, you don't have the. I mean, every once in a while, someone will get splattered, but not as often as in rugby. And you don't have the scrum things where everybody's like.
Oh, they don't do that.
They don't do that. Yeah. So you don't have that power struggle.
Right.
Push and
Right.
shove
Okay.
kind of thing. And it's just not as, the tackles aren't as vicious.
Okay.
I don't know all the penalties, but I think there's penalties if you
Right.
really nail someone bad.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more of a finesse game than rugby. So it's like, okay, in Australian rules football, let me see if I got this right. If you kick the ball to somebody and they catch it, the other team can't tackle you. So
they can't?
No, they can't. Unless you start to run. Once you start to run, then they can smash you.
So if I do a kick pass
And
to
I
a
catch
teammate and he catch it, I'm safe as long as I stand.
Right.
Which then that gives me time to either pass or kick pass to another teammate.
Yeah, or decide to run. Yeah.
But once you decide to run, then they can tackle you.
Right. And if you throw the ball to another guy, then they can tackle you.
Oh.
So that's another reason why it's less physical.
Okay.
So
God, what's funny is I mean, I guarantee somebody from another country that had no experience with it. I'm sure American football seems complicated because you didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
But like, I'm trying to how the hell do you remember all those rules?
Right. Right.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was fun. It was good. It was a great experience to see a different sport I've never seen before.
And I'm sorry, this friend that lives there, you grew up with him?
No, he was a college friend. He was in my fraternity.
From Union?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd known him my freshman year.
When's the last time you saw him in person?
When we graduated from college.
Seriously?
Yeah, he went to Australia and never came back. And
I mean, and you obviously graduated college like 5 years ago. So anyway,
1982.
How have you stayed in contact with him since then? Have you always had each other's phone numbers?
I lost track of him for a long, long time, and then reconnected through Facebook when Facebook.
Oh, okay. Thank God for technology.
Yeah. And he was a poli-sci major, so he would I'd put something political up there, and
and he would bite.
Yeah. and he was usually right.
So that education.
So he would correct me. Yeah.
So that is so funny. And did he go there right after college, or how long has he been there?
Pretty much right after college, yeah.
And married, kids, family, or just doing his thing
married,
down
kids,
there?
Divorce. Well, in the process of divorce.
Okay, but he's made his life there.
Yeah.
And he's happy there.
Right.
Oh, that is so cool that you got to reconnect with him.
Yep.
So, okay, my gosh, you hadn't seen him in over 25 years, maybe 30.
Right.
What was that like when you first saw him? Like walking up in person going, Jesus, I haven't seen you for 30 years.
I didn't.
Did you even recognize him?
I did not recognize him.
That's what I was afraid of.
And it's funny, when we were talking, he said, Biggs, as you've gotten older, you've become more liberal. As I've gotten older, I became more conservative. And he's a business guy, and has the business persona and all that kind of stuff, and is pro business, which is fine. That's cool. But he was a very liberal. He was a stoner and big drinker and party boy.
Well, yeah, because I think on the first podcast we talked about the fact that you kind of got exposed to a lot of stuff in college,
right?
Where you kind of soiled your oats, I guess, if you want to.
Sowed my oats.
Sowed my oats.
Not soiled.
Sorry, I know I got the expression wrong, but you know what I mean.
No.
Was he one of the people in your frat that helped you do that, or?
So that all going from being a very conservative, no alcohol, no drugs, no nothing.
Right.
Kid, my high school friends were more of an influence
than college was
on pointing me into that, leading me into that direction. The wonders of.
But you've also, again, we've talked about it before, not only on the first podcast, but just in person. You had some college friends where you had some fun, wild, risque experiences in college.
Right.
Was he one of those friends?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yeah. My whole fraternity was. Yeah.
Say his name so I get it.
Mike Meany.
Mike
Meany.
Meany.
Yeah, Meany.
Meany. Okay,
Yeah.
Mike Meany.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to give him credit if again, in 5 years, he actually sees this. But yeah.
So my high school friends started me down that path. My college friends
And he
finished me off on that path.
So Mike just encouraged it.
Right, right. And there was much more variance of much more substances available.
Right, right.
And I didn't even smoke pot till my senior year in high school.
Right.
So it was a slow start and a kind of a faster finish. The last 4 years in college, I tried quite a few things. So.
And then Union, the college you went to again, I remember from our first talk, there is, what was the historic relevance of that? That was the first
non-religious school.
It was the first college in the United States of America that wasn't affiliated with a religion.
Right.
And it's in what city?
Schenectady, New York.
That's right. Which
is near Albany.
So it's kind of central New York.
Yeah.
Central New York State.
Right.
It's between New York City and Buffalo.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, more towards New York City, but yeah. Right.
And that was, I think you settled on that after you made that amazing trip to Boston and some other places on the East Coast where you couldn't read the map and find anything.
Yeah.
But you settled on that. You had options though.
Well, Bucknell University was my first choice.
And I don't remember what city that's in.
That's in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Near the where the Little League World Series is played. Real close.
So is that eastern Pennsylvania by Philadelphia, or
it's not
more
that far? Not that far east.
Central.
It's east of the middle. It's probably another hour east of Penn State,
which is in I should know the name of that town. College Station.
Yeah, College Station. Right.
Yeah.
So that was my first choice, and I got put on the waiting list at Bucknell, and I got accepted to Union. Union was my second choice.
So how I'm sorry, we're repeating ourselves, but nobody listened to the first one, obviously. How big is
3 people did, right?
Yeah, all 3. Schenectady. How big is that town? 20,000, 25,000, something like that.
No, it's bigger than that. It was the GE had their headquarters in Schenectady, so probably 200,000 would be my guess.
Oh, geez. Really okay, so a decent sized town.
Yeah.
And Union College was founded in probably the late 19th century, late 1800s.
I believe it was in the late 1700s.
Oh, geez, that long ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Old school. Yeah. And we never went into the city of Schenectady. Schenectady just had nothing to offer.
Was the campus involved in the town, or was it separate? Was the campus built into the town?
I could walk to the downtown central.
But you also had the entire campus was pretty big, and so you never really.
It was only 2,100 kids, so it's fairly small.
In the entire school?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Entire school. Yeah.
Wow, that's very exclusive.
Yeah, very small.
Jeez, so I'm assuming this college was specializing in certain disciplines.
It was a liberal arts school, and its strongest suits were engineering and pre-med.
It almost kind of, now that you say it that way, and how few students it had, was it kind of like Reed College here in Portland?
I don't know Reed College.
Oh, it's a very revered private school, but it's super fucking small.
Probably then, yes.
The entire United States only gives out, every school in the country only gives out so many PhDs in physics every year, and Reed usually does at least one of them.
Does it? Okay.
There's
engineering school.
4 or 5 people that get a physics PhD. And now I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think they are well known for that kind of a thing. Like Steve Jobs went there for a couple semesters, but that's a different story. Yeah. But it's a very small private school that is very elite,
right?
For lack of a better term.
Yeah, and Union was the same way. So
what was the application process for Union then?
Yeah, I mean, it was a standard. You had to turn in your SATs.
Well, yeah, okay, right. You had to fill out application process, turn in SATs,
write the essays.
but
and
did you
all that stuff.
did you have to do something like extra? Did you have to write like a letter of why I want to come here? And
No, no. I think I had a phone interview where an alumni who was part of the admissions process called
so
me and interviewed me.
every student was accepted on their merits.
Right. Right.
It was almost like a blind application process.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, but for me, 2100 was huge. 'Cause
Coming from the private school you
yeah,
came from.
my high school class was 35 kids, and we were the biggest class at the time.
Oh, jeez.
So I went from a tiny school to a small college, but for me it was huge.
Right.
You know,
But this is where you met like Mike and other people, and
right.
that is so funny. Was there something about the intense academic pressure and the expectations? Is that why there was, some release of the, the stories you told me about?
Substance abuse.
Yeah, well, just you guys had to
Yes,
go,
absolutely.
on your weekends. You guys had to go exhale.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well, so we had classes 4 days a week, and for those days, I had like 4 classes I'd go to, and I probably studied 4 to 6 hours a day after that.
In
Did
addition to
homework.
the classes.
Yeah.
So 4 to 5, I'm assuming the classes were an hour to an hour and 20 minutes each.
Right.
You had 4 of those for 4 days a week.
Right.
So that's, 6, 7 hours plus an additional 5 or 6 hours of studying.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then Friday through Sunday, you guys went crazy.
Yeah. we didn't have classes on Wednesday, so Tuesday nights were a big
Oh, I'm
party
sorry.
night.
It was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Right. Yeah. So
Okay.
Tuesday nights were a big party night, and obviously Friday and Saturday were. And for me, because I was on the lower end of the academic standard for the school, so I had to work my ass off to get through it.
You mean the lower academic standard from when you were there, or for how you got
For being accepted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought you had
My SATs were on the lower end.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they were probably still great, but low for that school.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So it was a very challenging academic school for me. So it was work hard, play hard, and I had to cut loose.
So did it come down to, was it the content, or was it just not knowing how to study and retain? Like, had you already learned and cultivated study habits in high school?
I had great study habits in school. Yeah. High school, I probably had 1 to 2 hours of homework every
So
night.
was it just the material was so much more intense?
Yeah. Right.
Oh.
Yeah. It was just, there was more to do, more to read, more to study, more tests, more
Okay.
information thrown at you, and then a higher
Expectation.
Well, you had stronger competition because everybody was, this is the best of the best of the best went to the Ivy League. So this was the second tier of the best went to Union College. So you were competing against a bunch of smart people. They were challenging the
Was
hell out of
everything
you
graded on a
academically.
curve?
A little bit, yeah.
So
yeah,
that
sure.
increases the competition,
Right.
obviously. Oh,
Right.
Jesus.
Yeah. So yeah, it was
How
very
big
challenging.
were the classes? Like, were you doing like lecture halls, like 100 students in a tiered lecture hall, and like the Socratic method where the professor is doing that shit?
Yeah, they're lecturing.
Was it that bad?
Yeah, they're lecturing and you're writing, and then it's like, read these 50 pages in this book by tomorrow,
And then the next day you come to class and he might randomly call on you as a student, and you better have the right answer. That kind of pressure.
they didn't do a lot of that. They didn't call you out.
That's what I meant by
yeah.
the Socratic method.
No,
but-
they lectured, and then they'd give you the reading assignments. They'd lecture on what you read those chapters for that, the day before, and then test you. But
So you start out with the syllabus, and they say this is what's going to happen every
Right.
week, every day. Do the reading. We're
Yep.
going to talk about it the next day, and if you don't do the reading, you're going to fall behind.
right,
And if you don't pay attention during the lecture, you're going to fall behind.
right,
And by the way, you're paying to be here. I don't give a fuck.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're not a kid anymore. You have to do the work.
It was because it was small, it was easy to establish a relationship with the professors. And if you needed extra help, you could go and they would give you the help. So there was that support.
Yeah.
Because I'm a stubborn asshole, I tended not to do that.
You mean because you're a stubborn, amazing person is what he meant to say, Kristin and Lee. But
I should have taken more advantage of that, but I did not.
I was having flashbacks the way you described that to my so my education career was obviously different than yours. Went through public school the entire time. I was like an A student all the way until 7th grade. And all of a sudden, I don't know if that was a transition from staying in one class all day to now you had periods, like, 5 or 6 different classes and you went to different classrooms.
Right.
I think that might have been part of what threw me. But also there had to be the hormones of getting into, puberty's happening. I started playing football, sports. I had distractions and I started noticing, girls are attractive, all that bullshit.
Right.
Not that I ever got any, but just other things became a priority. And I just kind of floated my
private
way.
school kids never had hormones. We weren't allowed to have hormones.
Yeah,
so we never
stop
never
it.
saw girls.
They were not repressed.
There was no sports.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop making fun of me. Anyway. All through high school, floated my way through with like a C average.
Right.
And it was funny. I remember I had this aha moment. Halfway through my senior year, and I'm going to give a shout out to Dennis Burke, one of my social studies instructors. He was also a football coach. I started off the first part of my senior year in his social studies class, and then I had to do something else, transfer to a different teacher for the second half. But somewhere in the beginning of my senior year, I realized, shit, it's getting real. I want to go to college. My cumulative GPA is not high enough. I might not even get accepted to the state universities. I was on the border. I was like, damn, I have to buckle down.
Right.
And I did. And all of a sudden, I became the best student the second half of my senior year. I got all A's and B's just to get my cum up to 8. I'm going to say it. It's going to make you laugh. I had to get it above a 2.5 to even be able to apply to a state college in Oregon.
Right.
And I managed. So my GPA the last part of my senior year was like a 3.5, just to get my cumulative up to above a 2.5, so I could actually apply to Western Oregon University, which is where I went to college. And then here was the aha moment I had. Went down there, first class, and it was just a science class. And I go in, and they just laid out, here's your syllabus, here's your books, schedule. Instructor starts talking, and I'm like, I had no study habits. I'd never been trained. I'd never learned study skills. I didn't understand. I was like, but that's when it hit me. It was like, oh, it's on me now.
Right. Yeah.
We are giving you the curriculum. We're telling you what to read and what's going to be taught. And if you don't fucking do it, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Sink or swim, right?
Your mom's not here anymore.
Right.
Literally, that is what I had. And it was just a state college. It wasn't even like a really high pressure university like you went to.
Right.
And I was like, holy shit, I might be in my head.
At the private school I went to, Maumee Valley, you learn how to schedule your time and manage your homework.
That wasn't taught in public school to me.
So, and I remember,
and I'm not judging. I love.
I remember going
school,
in my freshman, fall term, going in and, picking up the workload, knowing exactly what to do, how to do it, and seeing other kids absolutely struggle. They'd spend a 10-week term. They'd spend the first 5 weeks screwing around. And then the last 5 weeks, it's like, oh my God.
Trying to catch up.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
What did I just do to myself?
But you were learning that in high school.
Right.
That my first exposure to that was my freshman year of college. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
It only took a term or two of that, and everybody figured it out. But, you can learn that pretty easily.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was great fun. I mean, college was an absolute blast. I did more wild and crazy stuff in college than any other time in my life.
No, that's not true. Me and Pam and Sean have hung out with you, and we've seen you do some crazy shit. So
Not like I did in college. Nothing even close to what I did in college.
Obviously.
So we used to go. There was a Skidmore College was 40 minutes away from Union College.
A different town?
Different town. Saratoga Springs, which is a big
Saratoga.
racetrack.
Not Sarasota, Florida.
Right,
Saratoga.
Yeah.
Okay.
3-to-1 ratio, girls to guys.
I hate it when that happens.
Artsy school, ballet, drama, all that kind of stuff. So beautiful women. Union was 3-to-1 guys to girls because we were engineering, nerd school. So we'd go to Skidmore all the time. I mean, I spent every Tuesday night and every Friday and Saturday night there.
You said it was like 40 minutes away?
40 minutes away, yeah.
Okay.
We'd get ourselves all liquored up before we even go.
You
Drive there, hit the bars.
You didn't have to include that part of it, but okay.
Bars are open till 4 a.m. in New York at the time.
Really?
We'd close the bars down at 4 a.m. and then drive all the way back. And nobody got killed.
Oh, because you had Wednesday off. You didn't have to be at class the next day.
And then we do it Saturday, and if we didn't or Friday.
Okay, so Skidmore, that college, and then Union, you both had frats and sororities?
They didn't really do the sorority thing.
But you did. Your college did.
Yeah, we had 3 sororities and like 20 fraternities.
I'm shocked. But once you guys would show up at Skidmore, was it just like, you didn't have to have sororities or frats, but it was just college life. You could just show up somewhere. There were,
right.
Like, did some of your fellow students have connections that knew people there?
Yeah,
or did you just show up on campus and say, "Hey, we're the guys from Union"?
Well, as a newbie freshman, you're as soon as you're on campus, you heard about Skidmore College. It's like that's where everybody goes. So the upperclassmen, we're going, let's go. And I'd go there, and I was just absolutely like, "What in the hell is this?"
It was almost sensory overload.
Such a shock.
Sensory overload.
Yeah, and going to party where you're literally asses to elbows.
So that's what I meant. The parties weren't at a frat house; they were just at what students rented a house. It wasn't a frat house; it was just a house.
So at Union, all of the social life revolved around fraternities.
Right.
And the fraternities were pretty cool because every fraternity party was an all-campus event.
Okay.
And nobody charged anything to get in.
Really?
Yes, they all.
Everybody was welcome.
Everybody went, and the fraternity supplied all the alcohol.
So you didn't have to have a pass to get in.
Nope. No, everybody.
Oh, that is not how the Greek system works at most colleges.
Yeah, they were all open.
Wow.
Open. And what we would do in our fraternity, my fraternity is one of 3 of the real big social fraternities. When we threw parties, they were huge. So we would print up a whole bunch of invitations and go to Skidmore College and hand them out to all the girls. So all the girls
they would come to.
And they'd come to our
come to
Union.
Union.
Come to our parties. Yeah. And they were all welcome. And when they'd have parties and events and like all campus parties and things. And so we'd go there and you'd find out about it. And
so again, at a because my college, when I went there, I think it's the same way now. We didn't have a Greek life, but there were houses that were like huge old houses, 2 stories, 7 bedrooms that a bunch of college students would live in and rent. So we didn't have Greek life, but we had party houses, if that's what you want to call it. Is that kind of what Skidmore was like? Where there were houses that a bunch of students rented and they would sometimes throw parties?
Most of the parties at Skidmore would be on campus. They'd have a huge event on campus.
With alcohol?
Yeah, with alcohol. Yeah.
On the college campus?
Yeah. It's an 18 state.
It's a what?
You could drink hard liquor at 18.
Oh.
So there was no having ID
that
worry about.
That explains so much.
Yeah.
You didn't have to deal with the freshman versus a senior.
Right.
Like the freshman can't drink and the senior can.
Everybody was getting stupid drunk.
But the college would allow that to happen on college property?
Right.
Really?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Times were different back then.
So I'm assuming they're not like that now.
Not as much.
Like if you went to Skidmore now, they're probably not having the same parties on campus property
I don't know. I went to my 20th reunion
at Union.
and I went back, and Union was in the process of kicking all the fraternities off campus.
Had they had a major event that something bad happened at one of the frats, and they just thought they should?
Not that I'm aware of, but the liability was huge.
Huh.
I mean, there were some nasty things that went on at fraternities.
Yeah. Yes, there is.
Mine, there was not. We did not do any of the
Right,
bad shit.
but
We
just
were
Greek
gentlemen.
life in general, there has.
Right.
I mean, most of them have been great, but there are exceptions where bad shit happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only incident we had was bringing a few strippers to our fraternity for.
Why is that an incident unless somebody raped them? I mean, they're paid. It's
Well,
okay.
one of the strippers did something she wasn't supposed to one of the guys on stage, and her.
Were they both consenting?
Yes, but her pimp didn't particularly appreciate that she was giving it away for free.
So that's where it went sideways.
And he came in.
Okay, that's where it went sideways.
Right. And raised hell. We were on probation for that one.
But nobody actually did anything wrong.
No, not well.
She was
Yes, right.
They were consenting adults.
They were, yeah.
And
Right.
the if you want to air quotes pimp, he just got pissed off because
Yeah.
he was like, you should be paying for that.
And there were no illegalities because he wasn't paying for the service.
That is all I'm
Yeah.
saying. Okay.
Right.
Nothing was forced on anybody.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
We had little mischievous issues, but we didn't have the big,
right.
Some girl got drunk and passed out.
Right.
And
That's
people took
what
advantage
I
of her.
meant.
We
That
didn't do
didn't happen.
No.
Jesus Christ.
We had some high school chick come on in our campus, went upstairs, laid down in a bed, and said, "Anybody who wants to go, let's do it." And nobody did it.
Yeah, everybody was
Nobody in
like,
our fraternity.
no,
she went
you
home.
should go home.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming she was from the local high school
Yeah,
there?
she was a townie. Yeah.
So
we were-
That's frustrating because you have to, I don't want to do a deep dive on that, but I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Then there's a story there, obviously, but
So as far as fraternities went, we were pretty good gentlemen. We were
Yes.
decent guys who didn't.
yes, I hate that this is going to be documented, but yes, Craig is a gentleman. Just don't tell anybody I said that.
So well, my parents raised me right.
All right, yeah,
that
I have
score.
one more. Do you want to do another 15 or 20 minutes?
Sure.
All right. Do you want to refill?
I would like a beer break. Yeah.
Then I'll pause it.
Yep.
Ow. It's not because I'm old. My knee hurts.
God, you're never gonna make it to 64.
Activate it again. And now we're going to talk about how amazing Craig was in college.
Oh my God. That's continuing, huh?
No, that is really interesting and a great story because your college experience, and it brought back a bunch of memories of mine, obviously. And I only went, so that first year I told you how shocking it was to have to deal with the curriculum, and I didn't have
Right.
study habits. But then obviously I met my daughter's mom freshman year. So I did the first year at Western Oregon. We took a year off, got married, had Kristin, and then I went back for a second year. And this is kind of where you mentioned something earlier. At that age, I was just going to college because I thought that's what I was supposed to do.
Right.
But I didn't have a drive or a focus. After the second year, just dropped out of college, ended up doing a career. And then I went back in my 30s to college, and I was like, wow, I can actually appreciate this now. It helped to have some real-world experience. It helped to have some job experience to be able to relate to what they were trying to teach me.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to, especially because you're okay, Miles.
His legs really hurt me.
Yeah, he's sore.
It's different than usual. Yeah.
You can lay down.
Yeah, he's really hurting.
But you already knew you went. Oh, okay. Yep. Go.
Come on. Outside. No. Yeah, you might cut.
said Bill O'Reilly. Fuck it, we'll do it live. Fuck it, I'll write it and we'll do it live. That is one of the best sound bites ever. Have you actually watched the video of the behind the scenes thing of when he lost it with his producers on the set of that?
No.
I'll send you a link later. It is freaking hilarious.
So one other point on Union College.
Closer to your mouth. Wait, why are you afraid of the phallic symbol, Craig? I don't understand.
I like my personal space.
But everything you say is super important. The world needs to hear it, so keep the mic close to your mouth.
So the other little known fact, Union College had the first 3 fraternities in the United States ever. We founded the fraternity system.
Greek life.
Greek life, yeah.
What? Okay. Seriously?
Yeah.
And where are you getting your information from? YouTube?
From Union College.
I'm kidding. I was kidding.
So my fraternity,
but seriously,
my fraternity Delta Phi,
right,
was one of the 3 founding fraternities in the country, and started the fraternal system.
This raises an interesting question. Was the fraternity system something that existed in other countries?
That I don't
because
know.
The way you phrased that was it was the first ones in America. So
right. That I don't know.
Was that something that America created?
I'm not sure, but if you Google the Union Triad, it'll come up.
Okay, but Union College had the first 3 fraternities that ever existed in America.
Right.
And what were you know the names of all 3?
I don't remember the other 2, but
Okay.
Delta Phi, which is the one I was in.
Well, then how much? Well, in your school didn't have sororities.
We had 3.
You did?
Yeah.
How long after that did sororities become a thing?
Well, Union College was founded as an all-men's school, and I
Right.
think they went co-ed like early 70s, which is why by the time I got there...
1870s?
1970s.
That's what I was afraid you were going to say.
Yeah. So me getting there in 78, that's why the ratio was 3 guys to 1 girl.
Right.
They were still working that.
But you had 3 frats, and
Yeah.
the entire fraternity system in America started at Union College.
Correct.
That is really... So Union College, I don't know if they were one of the first universities or colleges to be found in America, but they had to be close to it if they were the first ones that had frats.
Yeah, they were very close to it, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Chet Arthur, President of the United States, was a graduate of Union College.
And he was president probably 20 years after he graduated from there? About that time.
Somewhere in there, yeah, 20, 40 years, somewhere in
Wow.
there. He wasn't a very good president, but nonetheless.
I was going to say, I don't recognize that name.
Yeah, he was insignificant.
Just one term.
I believe so.
They didn't reelect him.
I believe that's correct.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we had to take a pause to take care of Miles, who was having a rough night, but everything's going to be better very soon. Miles.
Yeah, we may have just hang out for tomorrow and not go walking.
Yeah, no more walking tomorrow.
Yep.
Oh gosh.
Right. So what else did you want to talk about?
Oh, there was other stuff I want to yell at you about. So we covered Lee and Kristin, covered the World Cup. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you about. It's financial stuff. Obviously, your kind of forte. What should we? We're not. The news, whatever, keeps saying we're in a recession right now. It's not going to go.
We are not in a recession.
Really?
No. Recession is 2 quarters in a row with negative GDP, and we haven't had that.
So what all the news outlets have been saying is we're not in a depression, just a recession.
Well, all the news agencies that report real news,
and there's
will tell
not
you
that
that
many
we
of
are
them.
Not in a recession. We just had 5.4% GDP growth the last quarter,
Really?
which is huge. That doesn't happen. So, yes.
That's kind of an anomaly? Really? I mean, or is it?
Yeah, we haven't had. I mean, that's a real rarity that you would get something like that big. And Biden, I think, has had positive. Yeah, Biden has had positive GDP growth every quarter.
Or his administration has.
Yeah, yeah. Now during the Trump administration, because of COVID and the mismanagement.
Well,
of,
but
of
you
COVID.
almost that's almost not fair to that almost has to. I don't know if you can apply those statistics to the history of it because it was such a weird.
It's
couple
an anomaly.
years.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, we had a quarter where our GDP
And
dropped.
I'm not defending Trump by any means.
Right.
For all three of my listeners, I'm just saying,
Right.
to be fair,
Right.
shit happened in his presidency that has never happened before. So I don't know if you can apply that to the statistics.
Yeah, we had one quarter during the Trump administration where GDP dropped 33%, which the U.S. economy has never done that.
So I'm
before.
assuming that was like March and April of 2020 or maybe June, July or whatever, but
It was right when everything closed
shut down. Right.
Yeah,
When you
Right.
would not allow businesses to
Right.
operate. Yeah.
right. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily his fault.
No,
You had to shut down.
right. It was what it was.
Right.
So,
But no, we are not in a recession,
okay.
contrary to what you're thinking. Unemployment is at a
No, I was just asking.
Yeah.
I'm reading bullet points of what I'm
Right.
seeing on the
Yeah.
fucking trusted news outlets,
the unemployment rate is 3.7%,
which is very low.
which is the lowest it's been since 1965.
Yeah.
We just created 199,000 new jobs, which anything over 200,000 is economic growth. So we're right there. Inflation is 3.2%, I think. So inflation is tamed. The economy is actually doing pretty well.
Pretty good, right?
And in comparison, so the way you need to look at the economy is you compare it to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And the United States came back from the COVID crisis. Their economy came back stronger than almost every other first world country.
Okay.
So our economy is actually doing real well. We're experiencing real wage growth, which is wage growth minus the inflation rate. So people are earning more real money, are actually making more money than they used to, which has been a rarity lately.
And does that wage growth statistic does it account for state mandated laws that force the minimum wage to increase?
Well, that certainly helps, yeah, because you've had to
Yeah.
bump your wages, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the unions are getting healthy bumps in
Yeah.
pay, so, which is all very healthy for the economy. So the economy is not as bad as a lot of people are saying it is.
Well, no, I didn't think it was. I just I look to you for a measured and reasoned explanation of what's going on,
Right.
because there's just so much fucking bullshit out there especially when it comes to the economy and
Right.
politics, and you hear sound bites and
Yeah. Every news these days, everybody spins it to
Yeah.
whatever side they're on.
yeah.
The left spins it left, the right spins it. If
Yeah.
you listen to Fox News, the economy is in absolute dire straits. We're at the it's
Yeah.
crisis mode.
Yeah,
And it's
because
bullshit.
yeah, because they're trying to cater to their agenda and feed
Right.
whatever's gonna get them the most viewers or the most clicks.
Right. And they want to scare those people, so they vote for Trump.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how they get. Yeah,
Joe Biden has reduced the annual deficit every year. Not the total deficit. We're still running a deficit, but it's getting smaller every year.
all right. So I will say, you keep saying that, I'll say Biden's administration.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just not sure how aware or competent he is anymore. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Maybe he has built a team of amazing people around him that are making things better. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot like Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan.
At the end, there's
his
question.
wife was running the country.
Yes.
Right. So if you have, and that's, so he's like the CEO of this giant company called the United States of America. The CEO doesn't really
It can't have
do anything.
Can't have his finger on every aspect of the business.
He hires the people who do things. He creates the environment that allows them to do the things that he believes in.
Yeah.
So really, that's what he does. He's an old school politician. He understands that. He understands how the government is supposed to work, which Trump trashed. Trashed the government. So he brought that back.
Yeah.
He knew how the government needed to be put back together to run again.
Yeah, it's kind of, and thank God I only have 3 listeners, because on a much smaller scale, I can kind of relate this to my job. I always have believed in this philosophy that you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you.
Right.
And you support and empower them.
Right.
To do their best. I don't want to be a traffic cop. I don't want to be micromanaging. I want to have people that are smarter than me and that are better than me, and I will empower and support them and guide them, and then let them do their thing instead of micromanaging and playing traffic cop.
Right. You lay out the agenda, and then you hire the people to make that agenda
I do,
happen.
or the company does.
Yeah.
The
head honcho
I'm
does.
there.
Yeah.
So I guess I look at, my position. I'm a supervisor, as it were.
Right.
I look at my position as I'm here to make sure things flow the way they should, but also you guys are amazing. You know your job. I just want to support and empower you to do your job better, to make your work experience as good as it can be, because then I'm going to get better things out of you.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not here to micromanage and direct you and tell you, oh, you should do this instead of that. I'm like, if I had to tell you that, why are you working here?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the president's job.
Right.
Too.
Yeah.
I would prefer to see someone much younger than him be president this next term, but the Democrats aren't going to do that.
Which is frustrating.
It's Biden or nobody. Just like it was Hillary or nobody. Same mistake, in my opinion. Same mistake.
Yes, it is. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? We are a country of over 300 million people, and that's the best option you can give us? Right. Are you fucking kidding me?
Let's have a primary and let us choose who we want to be the Democratic leader. And I would not choose Biden again. Biden did a very good job, but it's time to get someone young in with young energy, a young brain, and new ideas.
No,
my generation needs to get the fuck out of the way and let the younger people take charge.
I'll vote for Tulsi Gabbard again if I have to. If my option is Trump or Biden, I'm writing in Tulsi Gabbard.
No. You have to vote for Biden. You have to vote for Biden.
Why?
You'll write in Tulsi Gabbard, which is throwing your vote away. You might as well not even vote.
I've heard that argument, but if that's the argument, that is why we have a two-party system, because everybody's afraid to throw their vote away.
Well,
so nothing's going to change if we keep being afraid to throw a vote away.
I have voted for 2 independents. Ross Perot, which is probably stupid.
No, it wasn't.
And Anderson was my first vote.
Anderson
against Carter. I can't think of his first name.
Okay, but
when Carter ran, I was not a Carter guy.
76.
He was a Democrat.
Yeah.
But what we're basically voting for in this election is keeping our democracy or having an autocracy. That's what it comes down to. So we both.
Yeah, but also if we contribute to the status quo, nothing ever changes. Maybe you have to shake it up.
Okay, that'll have to be the election after this, because Biden can't run for another 4 years. The Democrats aren't going to put anybody else up against him.
Why aren't they? Why aren't they going to?
I don't know why they do that. I think it's fucking stupid. And that was stupid to just say it's Hillary or bust.
Yeah.
That was the dumbest thing they ever did.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And I agree they're doing the same stupid thing with Biden.
Yeah.
So, but here we are. If you want democracy, you have to vote for Biden. You can't vote for anybody else.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I see your point.
Yeah.
I know.
So you grab your ankles and vote for Biden, and
grab your ankles, take it in the ass, and put up with another 4 years. I know.
Yeah.
Because it's a choice of evils.
And Kamala will end up being the president before his next 4 years are over anyway, because he's going to die.
Jesus Christ.
Right?
That might be the reason I don't vote for him.
But you have to. Kamala's better than Trump. Anybody is better than Trump.
I'm not sure about that.
I'd vote for Miles over
Christ.
Trump.
Miles is awesome.
If Trump gets control of the presidency of the United States, democracy is done. We are done.
Oh, and you're kind of basing that on the way that the end of his only presidency happened.
I'm basing it on what he's currently telling us.
Yeah.
What he has currently said, what has currently come out of his mouth.
So do you believe that, let's say he does get elected again.
Right.
Do you really believe that the infrastructure of the U.S. government would allow him to do what he's saying?
Yes.
Would it really?
Yes. He will have his...
Aren't there enough checks and balances in place that it couldn't happen?
No. Where are the checks and balances? Well, if both houses of the Congress go Republican and he's elected, he's already got the Supreme Court under his thumb.
And there are enough...
He'll have the House, he'll have the
there are
Senate,
enough...
and he'll have the presidency.
There are enough radical... It's a bad word. There are enough people on his side that are already...
radical is the right word.
That are already in... I'm trying to be approachable, Craig. Stop it. There are enough people that are on his side that are already in Congress that...
Right.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
Right.
I see what you're saying.
And his cabinet will be Steve Bannon and that
they're
Miller
they're
fuck.
handpicked by him.
Yeah. They'll be handpicked to do what he wants. And he'll declare martial law, or he'll, Insurrection Act. He'll use the military.
Do you think that would actually follow through, though?
Absolutely.
Even if he declared it, would it?
Absolutely. I believe it 100%. So you got no choice but to vote for Biden. Well, to vote for Kamala Harris, basically.
Yeah.
But
I hate that it's come to that. Now, I am going to say this.
Biden has done a good job of surrounding himself with very good people.
Yes, yes.
So you've got that going for you. So it's really not voting for him. It's voting for his
and there
administration.
Are,
It's voting for the whole team.
I don't have any listeners now, but I'm worried about if I ever do. I know a lot of really good people that would take the exact opposite argument of you.
Well, they're stupid fucks.
No, they're
they're
not
wrong.
stupid. They're
wrong.
I would agree they might be wrong, but they are good people with the best of intentions. And this is what I think we've lost in this country is the ability to disagree and still be friends.
Okay, let me ask you this question. What did Trump accomplish in his 4 years?
I can't do a deep dive
What
on that.
good
because
did he accomplish? Nothing.
The only, for small business owners, or business owners in general, they helped him. They helped them. He helped them. I mean,
he helped the huge corporations,
and
the
they also
ultra-rich.
said that his stance on China was stronger than. I don't know. This is what I've heard. That he was stronger on China with trade sanctions. I don't know.
So he put tariffs on China. We know from economic history that tariffs have never worked.
Right.
And who paid for those tariffs? Us.
We did.
We did.
America did.
Yeah. So all he did is cost us more, and nothing happened. China isn't any weaker because of it.
Right.
Right. China has its monopolies on certain things that we need. So nothing happened there.
Yeah, and that became very to the forefront with the pandemic. Like all of a sudden, our supply chain,
Right.
like holy shit, we're relying on China for chips.
Right.
I mean, like,
Big corporations got richer. That money didn't trickle down to anybody.
yeah,
The top 10% got richer. That didn't trickle down to anybody. So nothing happened. He did
Yeah.
nothing
okay.
positive.
I'm
He
just
fucked up
I
COVID.
just have to qualify. You actually have the knowledge and experience and education to speak on this. I don't. I'm
Okay,
yeah.
so now let's look at the House of Representatives, which is run by the Republicans.
Yeah.
What have they done during Biden's 3 years so far? Nothing. Zero.
No, they've just tried to counteract everything they want to do.
Right.
I mean,
They've
yeah.
passed not one single act of legislation that helps this country.
Okay,
So what do you think is going to happen when you got a do-nothing president and a do-nothing House of Representatives take control of this country?
Yeah,
Nothing.
nothing.
The rich will get richer. The poor will get poorer. He'll tamp down on everybody who's against him. He's already said he's our retribution.
Yeah, yeah.
He's even talking about prosecuting MSNBC, for God's sake.
Yeah, no, there's no debate that he is not fit for any kind of leadership position. I mean, the guy is mentally ill.
Fox News asked him.
In my opinion, I'm not passing judgment. I can't get sued for slander.
Fox News asked him if he was elected, would he become an autocrat? He said yes for one day.
I know.
He's already told us what he's going to do.
Yeah,
He's going to prosecute everybody who's against him.
yeah. No, it's scary.
So who are you going to vote for?
Yeah.
You got
Not
no
him.
choice. It's got to be Biden. You could throw your vote away on Kennedy or Gabrielle, whatever the hell her name is. You can vote for
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah,
Don't disrespect her. She actually
can vote
could be
for
great, but I know what
your
you're saying.
little country singer dude,
No, knock it off.
whatever his name is. No Shoes
Whatever,
Nation.
You fucking know his name.
And you'll just be throwing your vote away.
Yeah. Well, and so I guess your point is, and my point is, there's a time and a place to throw the vote away, but maybe not now.
Not now.
Not now.
It costs too
Right.
much right now.
There is other times where that would be worth it, but
So we'll suffer through 4 years of Biden and pray he hangs on. And then the next election, we will have new blood.
will we? Will we? I fucking hope so.
All the old people will be dying.
I don't know.
We better have new blood.
They keep having all this TRT replacement and all these new drugs that makes everybody live longer, and they think they can fucking handle this shit.
My generation is an absolute disgrace. My generation.
I wouldn't say that.
No, we suck. Our generation has destroyed America in a lot of ways. We
Really,
are.
I thought it was my daughter's generation.
No.
Kidding, Kristin.
No, your daughter's my kids' generation. I have a lot of hope in them, but we've destroyed morals and ethics. We are the me generation. Fuck everybody else. I'm getting mine. I don't care how I get it. I don't care who I hurt. Enron. I mean, you can go on and on.
I guess
on.
that kind of was our generation.
Yeah.
It kind of was.
Right.
Wow, but
Yeah,
was that rooted in the fact that our parents' generation had it easier and we got comfortable and we had expectations?
I think we were the rich kids. Collectively, our generation
Right.
had it better than probably any other generation. And
absolutely.
And we were spoiled rotten.
Yes.
And it was all about me.
That's funny because that's kind of what I think about our kids' generation.
What I like about our kids' generation
Yeah.
is they're tolerant of gays, they're tolerant of transsexuals, they're tolerant of other races.
That's what I love about
They
them. But
care.
I hate the fact that we actually have to say that should just be expected. I hate the fact that we have to give them credit for being tolerant of that, because why the fuck wasn't everybody tolerant of that?
Our generation wasn't. My dad's generation
God,
wasn't.
you're right. You're right.
My
I
dad
know.
used to think gays belonged in a mental institution.
Okay.
Right?
Don't have to say that. I know. I
Right?
know.
So I have a lot of hope for them.
Yeah. So do I, actually.
In every generation, when they first come into the working world, everybody thinks they're pampered, spoiled brats. They used to say that about us.
Yeah.
And they used to say that about my dad's generation.
Yeah.
You know, all this big band, crazy stuff. Ooh, that's scary, hippie, weird shit. You know?
Yeah, and actually, but before I came here, I was hanging out with Kristin. We actually had a good couple hours. Yeah, we had some great conversation, and you're right. It's encouraging how much more perspective they seem to have on things.
Right. And they care about global warming.
They care about
the
everything.
environment. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
In a way that previous generations haven't. And we are not, me and Craig both are not shitting on previous generations. I think what we're saying is this is a evolution. It's progress. You're
Hopefully,
supposed to get better.
Yeah.
And you want every generation. We learn stuff from our parents. We want our kids to learn stuff from us, and everybody should do it better. That's called progress. Cars didn't used to have shoulder belts.
Right.
There used to be a law that you had to wear a helmet when you were riding a motorcycle. That's called progress. Right. It's not me stealing your rights as an independent person. It is just me. It's the world saying, look, it'd be better if we had fucking seatbelts in cars. Right. It'd be better if you wore a helmet when you rode a motorcycle. And I can't believe we have to make laws to fucking tell you to do that because you're too fucking stupid to do it on your own.
Well, personally,
I just turned into Craig there.
Personally, the helmet thing, if you don't want to wear a helmet and you want to splatter your brains all over somebody's windshield, that's fine.
No, it's not.
Yeah, because
no, it's not.
All you're hurting is yourself.
No, that's not true.
Who else are you hurting?
The 7-year-old kid that was in the passenger seat of the car that your brains got splattered over. That's going to traumatize her.
That's like Jim Morrison. He did okay. Well, no, he didn't do okay, though. He died young, didn't he?
No. But. So that argument doesn't.
All
no.
right.
You should wear a fucking helmet.
Good point.
And again, if you're too fucking stupid to know that we had to make a law to tell you to do it.
I don't wear a helmet on my bike when I'm on a trail. I do when I'm in the streets.
Even after your accident last year, you haven't learned.
Right.
Okay.
The helmet was what cut my eyebrow here.
But it might have saved your fucking brain, which thank God we still have Craig's brain so he can talk to me on a podcast.
I didn't have a helmet on it then. Wait, no, I didn't have a helmet on. It was my sunglasses. I take that back.
I am just glad that you had that helmet on to cut your eyebrow so that I could still talk to you and hear all your amazing viewpoints on everything because you are so smart, Craig.
I am not that smart.
Can you imagine if you had not had a helmet on, what would poor Miles be going through right now?
He'd be taking care of me. I'd be drilling in the corner.
That would be scary.
Yeah, I'd be drilling in the corner. And
all right, I'm going to pause this. Thank you again, dude. This was an awesome conversation, and I love the fact that we didn't have an idea where it was going.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So
your podcast.
On the generational difference.
Oh, yes.
Your Kristin's generation, my Kristin, and Lee's generation.
Yeah.
They have to be the greatest generation, like the World War II generation. They have to save this world. They have to save it.
And that's probably our fault.
Yeah, it is.
It's our fault.
Yeah, we fucked it up, and they have to
now
save
I feel bad. We put that on our kids.
They have to. Global warming. They have to save that.
Yeah.
You know, they do. Democracy.
Sorry, Kristin, and Lee. Sorry, we put it on you because we're fucking dumbasses.
All right, that's it. I'm done. That's all I got to say.
No, serious. No, that is not all you have to say. You have a lot more to say, but seriously, cheers. I really appreciate this time with you.
All right.
I always enjoy talking to you. You know that. Kenny Chesney, Tom Brady, No Shoes Nation.
Pink Floyd.
Say it on mic, Pink Floyd.
I did.
And Bob Dylan. Oh, and Grateful Dead.
Grateful Dead. Yeah. Yep. Just
Grateful Dead.
Grateful Dead.
Thank you.
You can stay right there.